Hey guys, my name is Battlefield, and a while back I had the opportunity to get flown out to a Battlefield Hardline event. We initially played the single player, and while it does have some interesting qualities to it, I made a video about it a couple of weeks ago. Overall, I wasn't all that impressed by what I saw. But that's not the reason why I went to this event. I went to see the multiplayer. That's the reason why we play Battlefield. That's the reason why the Battlefield franchise is as popular as it is right now. And so I was going in to see if what they were doing was going to be great for this series. And so the first thing that I wanted to talk about is their new game mode called Hotwire. Admittedly, when I first learned about this, I thought that it was going to be a gimmick because it sounds absurd. The way it works is much like Conquest, but the twist on it is that the capture points are drivable. You can jump into the A capture point, you have to be driving it to secure it for your team, but the whole point of it is to hold on to that capture point and drive it around and make sure that the enemy isn't either able to blow you up or snipe you out of the driver's seat and then take over the capture point for themselves. And while I realize this sounds ridiculous, it sounds like a gimmick of Conquest, in practice, though, it is completely unique to the Battlefield franchise. It provides gameplay that you never experience really in a multiplayer setting. And overall, I was enjoying my time with this game mode. What I love about it is that it completely changes the way that you have to approach playing the objective. Normal Conquest, very standard. You run up to a capture point, you stay there for a couple of seconds. If an enemy runs by, hopefully take him out and then secure that point for your team. But for this, because everyone's driving around at Mach 5, if the enemy is holding on to more of these points than you, well, you need to change your tactics. There's a couple of ways that you can do it. You can lay little traps around the field. If you know that a lot of people want to drive over this bridge, that's a hot spot, well then place down C4 and wait for the car to drive on over and then turn it into a fireball. If you want to get into a vehicle yourself and chase them, honestly, this is the best way to do it in my opinion, then you and your buddies can all jump into one of these sedans, drive up next to one of the capture points, and then just mow it down with your assault rifles. It's seriously amazing. I know it sounds absurd. I know it sounds ridiculous, but when you're in the heat of the moment and you are having a firefight between two different cars and everyone is shooting out of their windows, it is a hell of a lot of fun. My one critique with it though, and this might just be contributed to the fact that we had no idea what we were doing when we first jumped in, is that 4 out of like the 8 capture points were being driven around. All of the others were just collecting dust. The 4 that were driving around, it was awesome. We were having some amazing moments, but it just felt like there wasn't enough players to fill out all of the other cars, but also have the action of people setting up traps as well. We were playing on a 32-player server, 16 versus 16, and so maybe if they bumped it up to 48 or even 64, I think that would create more of these amazing moments and the gameplay overall would just be enhanced. You have to remember that there always needs to be a driver, and that driver of course can't be shooting at people, but you also want to have at least 2 or 3 people in your vehicle to shoot out at other players. And so if everyone's in a vehicle and it's 100% full, that means that there isn't going to be enough people down on the ground to shoot at the people that are in the cars and to have those amazing moments. And so once again, maybe it was just simply because we didn't understand what was going on and we needed people to jump in the cars, but from my playtime, it felt like if it was bumped up to 48 or even 64 players, that would have enhanced the game mode overall. Another thing that was fairly disappointing is that there doesn't appear to be all that much destruction. They did mention, because this is the alpha, all destruction hasn't been added into the game, but I did notice that the larger the map was, the fewer destructible objects there were. There were many times when I was using the M320 or the equivalent, I can't remember what it was called in the game, I fired this grenade launcher at a wall and it didn't blow up. It looked like it should blow up. It looked like it would be something that would be destructible in a past Battlefield game, especially if you look back at Bad Company 2, but it just sat there, it took it like a champ, and I was like, okay, well, I guess I won't take out that guy that's in that building. It's fairly disappointing because I'm finding more and more, it's like the Frostbite engine is known for destruction, but every single Battlefield game that comes out, it's like they just keep reducing or chipping away at that destruction that I find is crucial in the Battlefield franchise. I realize the more destruction that you have, the harder and harder it gets to balance out these these maps. If you have a level that is completely destroyed, everything is down on the ground, well, that's going to be hard not only to balance, but it probably won't even be all that enjoyable. It's not going to be the best gameplay experience. But at least from what we were playing, I was very underwhelmed by the destruction. I don't know if this is just because of the limitations of the Frostbite engine. I don't know if this is a limitation of the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 3. Whatever the case, though, I was fairly disappointed that a lot of these buildings that looked destructible, it looked like you could take them down, had no destructibility component whatsoever. One thing that I have to mention really quickly, though, and you may have already noticed it, are the weapon skins. You want to have a gold deagle? That's going to be in Battlefield Hardline. You want to have an assault rifle that has Zebra strikes? That is also going to be available. It feels like they're going for more of a playful route, sort of like you would something you'd see in Counter-Strike Go with their weapon skins. I know that some of you out there are probably rolling your eyes thinking that this is just, another way that they're trying to clone Call of Duty, but a lot of games are doing it. It's just for fun. I know that when we talked to the developers, they were saying that they want some of these skins to be achievements, and so if you get like 1,000 kills, this isn't nailed down, so don't take this as gospel, but if you get 1,000 kills with the M16A3, well, then you can get the gold camo of it. You don't have to use it, but if you'd like to show off that you've been using that gun since day one, then that is going to be something that you can show off to the people that you're killing murderously with the M16A3. I personally don't have an issue with this. It's cops versus criminals. It's not your ultra-realistic military shooter. It's okay if there's some fun flair. Counter-Strike does it very well, and I know the community embraces it. And so as long as they do it correctly and don't go completely overboard, I think that this just be a fun flair added into the game. My critique with the customization, though, is that when you get down into the accessories, the nitty-gritty of all the different customization options, it still feels way too much like Battlefield 4. I think this is one of the biggest critiques why people are comparing this to being just a mod of the past Battlefield games. You look at basically all the weapons and all the different options for the accessories, they're basically identical to everything that we have in the previous game. You've got the ergo grip, the stock, the folding grip, the vertical, all of that is a carbon copy of what we had in the past games. And so what I'm really hoping is that they'll be able to mix things up a bit. I realize there isn't a whole lot you can do with customizations. Weapons need grips, they need underbarrels, they need barrel attachments, but it would be nice if it wasn't exactly the same as the past games. Just my 2 cents, though. One thing that I'm not too keen on is that they're trying to reduce the amount of rocket spam. And while I have no problem with that, because it makes sense in a cops versus criminals style of game. I mean, a criminal is not going to have access to 1 million RPGs like you do in the normal Battlefield franchise. You're not going to have RPGs zipping around everywhere, but I'm just not too thrilled with the way that they went about it. Basically, at the start of the round, you have a bunch of cars that you can use, and if you go to the trunk of it, it has either an RPG, an LMG, or a Stinger missile. All of this is fully customizable in the options menu, so you can pick and choose what power weapon that you want out of the trunk of your car, but because of this, at the start of the round, everyone was jumping out of their cars, picking up the rocket launcher, and then flying towards the action. So basically, they were trying to reduce the amount of rocket spam, but for like the first couple of minutes, everyone's just firing rockets at everyone. An RPG to any vehicle, I think, in this game is a one-shot kill. It is devastatingly powerful, and while I realize what they were doing, because in the movies and in Hollywood, you always see the criminal go to the back of their car to get their big weaponry, that's where their arsenal is, because pretty much everyone can pick the RPG, and everyone is going to because it is devastating, it just entirely defeated the purpose of trying to reduce rocket spam simply because of the way that they went about implementing this system. What I would really like to see them do is just make them battle pickups like we have right now in Battlefield 4, where there are going to be side objectives, there'll only be 1 or 2 on the map, but that way you reduce the amount of rocket spam, and then it actually becomes something that is sought after. Like, if you don't want to go directly for one of the drivable capture points, well, you can just go over to the side, pick up this power weapon, and then blow any car that comes near your way. I think that that would be the better way of approaching things. But overall, I am liking what I've seen so far with the Battlefield Hardline Multiplayer. I wish I could have showcased some of the other maps and modes. Some of these maps look phenomenal and they play really well. I like that there's going to be smaller competitive modes that are going to have a ranking system. All of this is under the embargo. I wish I could talk more about it. And while I do have a few gripes here and there, this is the alpha. Things are going to be changing. They're going to be improving it over the next couple of months. In general, I did enjoy my time with the multiplayer. But yeah, guys, that is about it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts about destruction and the battle pickup system. Do you think that it'd be cool just to have a bunch of rockets in the trunk of a lot of the cars, or do you think that it'd be more appropriate if they were scattered around the map? Let me know down below. But until tomorrow, have a good one and take it easy.